Roll.
Councilmember Gregg. Councilmember Shealy.
Here.
Councilmember McBride.
Here.
Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Brady.
Present.
Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring. Councilmember Seekings. Councilmember Tinkler. Councilmember Bowden. Councilmember Appel. Councilmember Parker. Mayor Cogswell.
Here. If we could all remain standing before we say the invocation and pledge, I'd like to have a moment of silence and then ask Chaplain Rich to say a few words honoring the departed co-worker of ours, Dale Morris. So let's please bow our heads in a moment of silence. Amen.
I invite you to join me in prayer. Almighty God, we thank you for our city. And as we look back and look forward, we thank you for the incredible leadership, for our first responders, for all those staff members of the city, and especially for its residents that they serve so dearly. And tonight, we especially thank you not just for the legacy of where we've come from and where we're going to, but also we thank you for Dale Morris. We thank you for the legacy he has offered our city, for the work that he has done, the dedication, for his spirit, for who he was to each of us individually, but also to our city as a whole. And we ask for your blessing upon his family and upon our city and staff members that work closely with him. May all the work from his heart, mind, soul, and strength be the legacy of our city. Now we ask that you bless this time, and may you bless our beautiful city. And we thank you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one proclamation tonight. It's for honoring or recognizing the Fair Housing Month. But before I read the proclamation, I would like to invite Ms. Florence Peters to come up and join me on the stage here. Florence, many of you all know, has served the city of Charleston for 19 years. She successfully led the first-time homeownership initiative where over 150 homes have been sold. In addition to the sale of homes, she pre-qualified clients for financing, ensured clients attended the first-time homeownership classes, and connected clients with the collaborative partners for future assistance. She conducts the annual monitoring of the apartments where the City of Charleston investment was invested. That equates to over 500 units being evaluated every year. Florence has partnered with the banking and real estate community to educate them on the benefits of first-time homeownership initiative and how they could play a role in sharing the information to prospective homebuyers. She established collaborative partnerships for the for-profit and nonprofit developers to participate in the redevelopment of homes under the First Homeownership Initiative. Florence, for those of you that know her, is known for her no-nonsense approach to securing individuals and families a piece of the American pie and a safe, decent, and affordable rental home. Today, we are pleased to present to Florence Peters, the Fair Housing Month proclamation as she retires from her time with the City of Charleston effective April 11th, 2025. Thank you, Florence, for all that you've done and for your dedicated support for this city and this community. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council,
Gianna Shaw Johnson, my director, and the entire staff of the city. I'm the face of everything homeownership and rental, but behind me are the people who do the real work to make all of this possible. And so I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve. It's been a pleasure. I love my job. I'm retiring, but I'm going to take this job and this experience with me. Thank you all the departments that help, everyone. Thank you so much for my time here at the city. Thanks again, Mayor.
You can't leave yet. We got to read the proclamation. Whereas this year we commemorate the 57th anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act, the landmark civil rights law signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson on April 11, 1968, that made discrimination in housing transaction unlawful. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, age, familiar status, and disability. And whereas the city of Charleston is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all. And whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And whereas the Fair Housing Act was passed 57 years ago and discrimination in housing remains relevant in our society today, Fair Housing Month is a time to recommit to our city and to our nation's obligations to ensure that everyone has equal access to safe, decent, and affordable housing. And whereas the city of Charleston is committed to fair housing and promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents of the city of Charleston. Now, therefore, I, William S. Cogswell, Jr., Mayor of the City of Charleston, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Fair Housing Month. Okay. Now we got to get a picture. You get to hold this. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we are on to public hearings. There are no public hearings. I need, moving on to approval of council minutes. I have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. We are now on to citizens' participation. Clerk, how many people do we have signed up?
We have 14 people signed up to speak.
Okay, we have 14 people. We'll give everybody 1 minute to speak. For those of you that are doing this for the first time, that means you have 1 minute to speak. We're trying to make sure that everybody gets their turn. We are limited to a total of 30 minutes. We make sure to remind everybody to abide by the rules of decorum. We want people to be polite. We want to hear you out. Please do not direct any of your comments to individual members of City Council. This is not a question and answer. This is for you to have your voices heard. So with that, Mr. Clark, will you please call the first speaker?
Anthony G. Bryant.
Anthony Gerard Bryant. This identifier was used at the Republican Party Precinct 21, downtown Charleston, April 1868, ratified the Constitution in this city, no recognition. Bottom line is, if I got the wrong name, it goes U.S. Treasury, Bassett, from Bassett it goes to SLED, from SLED it goes by the SLED and the FBI, then from the FBI it comes to the city of Charleston, and from there I go to county jail. That's the process of the wrong name. And South State Bank just responded to me today, so I'm supposed to be in jail, not here with a suit on and an ascot. But I think everybody black who look like me in this new city we live in could go to jail at any time. There's an unbalanced entity called Charleston. There's a new city of God called Charleston. False and idol gods called Charleston. A ghetto called Charleston. It's a new city, all right. For rich folks and white folks and black folks need to get the hell out of here quick.
Time. Mohammed Idris.
Evening. I will not be able to read all of this. However, I like to say this. When you lie, you'll steal. And when you steal, you'll kill. I voted for the mayor politically. I wanted something. And he told me he could deliver it, but he has not. History is best qualified to reward all research. Globalization has taken over, and everyone wants equality. I, myself, will be pursuing, fighting this city until Mayor Carswell deliver what he said he would deliver to me if I help
Time.
him get elected. Thank you all, and may God bless all of you.
Next, we have E. Jones, or perhaps F. Jones.
Good evening, Mayor Carswell and Council. I came today to stand in front of you to ask you to let you know that we're going into the 19th year of the Philip Simmons Summer Basketball League. 19 years. And I'm coming asking for support from this city to help us, because if you realize this year, we found out now, neighborhood council meeting on Wednesday, that Charleston County School District is not doing no enrichment program for the kids, no way, and their jurisdiction this year. So that means we're gonna have much more kids on the street. They could be kicking out Camp Down. Now, like I said, this is the 19th year of the Philip Simmons Summer Basketball League. It is a large summer basketball league we ran on Mall Park in the city of Charleston. So again, I ask each one of the council to please read the package I pass out to you. And if anyway, they end up by two large overhead in it. One is paying for the referee.
Time.
Another one is paying for the uniform. Thank you.
Lisa Jones.
Hi, good evening. I'm here this evening on behalf of Historic Charleston Foundation to express our support for Phase 1 of the Low Line. As a public infrastructure project that enhances the life of Charleston residents and visitors, the Low Line is transformative and unique. An investment in the Low Line not only enhances green space and biodiversity, but it provides needed storage and treatment of stormwater, flood abatement, active recreation, and alternative transportation opportunities. The path of the Low Line provides a central spine of mobility connecting the Upper Peninsula with downtown, providing opportunities for transit-oriented redevelopment as well as public-private partnership. Historic Charleston Foundation supports allocating funding to the contract with Edifice LLC for the Low Line Phase 1, and we look forward to being an active partner in ensuring that this project is a success for our community and beyond. Thanks so much.
Jason Wilson.
Good afternoon. I want to start with saying thank you to everyone in here for your work on making the city safer. It's a huge step forward and very impressive. I've been frequenting the Bridge Spot Skate Park since 2013. It's going to be adjacent to Phase 1 of the Low Line project. Phase 1 is going to be a huge improvement on its own, and definitely look forward to seeing it fully realized, both Phase 1 and Phase 2. So, thank you.
Sam Spence.
Hey folks, I'm Sam Spence from the Preservation Society of Charleston. I'm here tonight to say thank you for supporting the low line and also encouraging you to think about what's next for the low line. How can the city make sure the low line oriented development returns now to residents what you all voted for to invest in this project? To the east and the west of the low line, King and Meeting Streets have overlay corridors, right? And on Johns Island, in West Ashley and on James Island, similar safeguards are in place to make sure development is appropriately designed given the demands of these areas. And so the low line essentially creates a pedestrian corridor. So why not consider similar kinds of overlays for this new pedestrian corridor? And I'm not talking about design review, I'm talking about harnessing the low line's economic development, the civic and economic value of the low line. So how can we make sure the low line makes the most of this civic value and encourages pedestrian oriented uses, incentivizing creative, new, and civically generous connections between neighborhoods and this new civic space?
Time.
And how can we think about, in terms of how the city already uses this, the tools that the city already has, how can we use an overlay district to help govern development along the low line now that phase one has been funded by you all? Thank you.
Elaine Doyle.
Elaine Doyle. 15 years ago, our tenacious Radcliffe Borough President, Robert Ballard, began the opposition to the building of a parking garage in Radcliffe Borough. Sadly, Robert is not with us any longer, but we, the neighborhood, continue his fight. On several occasions, the applicant has met with us to gain our approval to no avail. He keeps telling us he needs to build this garage as a legacy to his family. His architect assures us that he's going to build a beautiful garage. A beautiful garage is an oxymoron. I have very serious taxpayer concerns. You are the guardian of our tax dollars, and you need to think about who is going to pay for the maintenance and the public safety concerns of this 5-story monstrosity. What is going to happen when the Brumley heirs no longer want to deal with this facility? Are we, the taxpayers, going to be stuck?
James Doyle.
Vice President, Radcliffe Borough Neighborhood Association. I won't repeat last week's comment on the inappropriate use of the Radcliffe Street property, other than to point out the Post and Courier's editorial echoing my comments. I would also commend your attention to the council-approved comprehensive parking study. Nowhere does the study recommend additional parking garages. Rather, it recommends better management of existing parking and mobility assets. Vince Graham, a prominent local developer, posted a letter in Thursday's Post and Courier. In the interest of time, I'll summarize it. Thanks to 3 city council members and the residents of this area who are taking a stand against this proposal. For too long, city council has imposed policies that prioritize vehicle traffic and storage. The mindset is unfair to urban neighbors who must live with the consequences.
Time.
Frank Plumley, the developer of the proposed Radcliffe garage, is quoted as saying, "We have a parking problem on the peninsula." I believe the parking problem is that there's way too much of it. The
Sir, your
obsession
time
with
is passed.
Establishing parking only induces more driving.
If I could just remind everybody to please stick to the timeline. Thank you.
Annie Sitton.
We do not need and we do not want a parking garage in our community. The city parking analysis of 2019 shows that there is ample parking in downtown. People have to find it, but there are apps for that. More traffic, more need for parking. It's a vicious circle.
Parking garage will have a negative impact on the livability of our community, especially one that is privately owned and isn't managed or regulated by the city and doesn't even provide the city revenue. We need centralized parking like Park and Rides to serve the entire metropolitan area and provide revenue for the entire city. Just this past weekend, we had several events that could have been served by a Park and Ride: the Bridge Run, the Flower Town Festival, the Open Tennis Tournament, all three in different areas. There are other events that would easily could use a Park and Ride. We should be working on long-term solutions for a sprawling metropolitan area, not forcing
Time.
quick fixes that could have devastating and permanent consequences.
Elizabeth Brainerd.
I am president of Radcliffe Borough Neighborhood Association, and we did not do a good job coordinating our speech because I read this, and I'm just going to give you a couple of quick stats. I'm quoting on page 13 and 14 of the comprehensive parking study. People are able to find parking reasonably close to their destination and within an appropriate amount of time, which is defined as under 5 minutes. Number two, many city garages where merchants are concentrated are well under 90% capacity, according to page 25. And on the weekend morning near the churches, the study found 20% of parking spaces are available, according to page 27. So digging into the details, the study finally concludes, do not prioritize new parking since the prevalence of public parking on the peninsula is adequate, page 118. We really hope that you will listen to us and oppose, or at a minimum defer, today's vote on the ordinance. Thank you.
Julie Skinner.
I'd like to thank the Peninsula Council members and Councilwoman Parker for their support. Following the last City Council meeting regarding this issue, I find it very troubling that council members outside the peninsula could not be persuaded by the public or the Peninsula Council members to oppose the rezoning and parking garage. Why was it so difficult to persuade them? Was this vote truly representative of the people, or were the decisions to approve made in a vacuum, prioritizing a private developer over the well-being of the residents without considering the strong opposition from the public or the experienced Peninsula Councilman? City Council is meant to serve the people, not private developers, select groups, or self-serving interests. The residents of Radcliffe Borough have fought to keep this parking garage at bay for 15 years. Now it is suddenly moving closer to approval, despite the fact that it is being supported by council members who neither represent nor live on the peninsula. I've spoken with many residents downtown, as well as residents from Johns Island, West Ashley, and James Island, and they do not support your decision to approve this rezoning and parking garage. Some of them are here tonight.
Frank Brumley.
Thank you very much. Frank Brumley, the owner of the properties to be considered for rezoning tonight. I too have read the Kimley Horn parking study, and it has some valid recommendations, but I will tell you it is 6 years old. Literally tens of thousands of new people have moved to the city. Thousands of apartments and hotel rooms have been built, and we lost a 500 car space parking garage at Wentworth. The study is outdated, excuse me. It needs to be considered along with street parking and parking garages. One last comment, there's been comments about the design of the potential garage. My architect, Joe Schmidt, designed at the request of the city this very space we sit in tonight when his restoration was done. He also did the same for the Dock Street Theater, and he has designed at the selection of the city the Gaillard Auditorium, which in my opinion is one of the finest new public buildings ever built in the city. Thank you very much.
And then apologies for the pronunciation. Fred Junko or Juro.
Yeah, my name's Fred Turco. I'm just an average guy here. I paid my taxes every year. I probably lived in the city about 18 years. In that period of time, I would estimate that I paid probably close to $500,000 in property taxes and all types of taxes in the city. Thank you for letting us have the opportunity to speak. I'm here on the auspices of the parking garage. I live on Wentworth Street, down by the Harris Teeter. If you go down the street, you'll see my house right away because I really beautify it. It's filled with flowers. I love the city. And what I want to say, and the reason I came here to talk is I'm speaking to you guys all on the city council. You have an obligation to the residents of the city, not the developers and not the architects. We're the ones that have paid your salary. We're the ones that vote for you. You have an obligation to these people that are talking about this parking garage. I'm nowhere near that parking garage. It doesn't affect me. I didn't come here on the behest of the parking garage. I came here to say to you, you guys have an obligation to listen to the residents. I'm not a resident of that area. And I've been to several meetings like this, and I can tell you, it would be a breath of fresh air if you all started listening to the residents instead of the people coming into this city as tourists.
Sir, your time is up.
I'll just say one thing. Up to this point, you have failed, in my opinion.
And lastly, we have Savannah Brennan, and if you're online, you can press *6.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Savannah Brennan here representing Charleston Moves to speak in support of the Low Line project and commend you all on that. We are excited to see this move forward. It will connect to many valuable projects, including the Ashley River Bike Ped Bridge, Wonders Way, the Meeting Street Road Diet, Hugie Street improvements, Brigade Street bike lanes, many more. This next step will provide some pre-engineering and cost estimates for both a biking and a walking path from Mount Pleasant Street to Line Street. Very important mid-block crossings, as well as critical connections to neighborhood streets. So we are very excited, and we thank you very much.
And those were all the speakers we had signed up to speak. We did receive one comment online from Jerome Harris, encouraging council to support effective strategies to promote transparency and collaboration between Charleston Police Department and the diverse citizen population of the city. And he recommended that council defer action on item L1J, Chief Citizen Liaison Group Guidelines. We did receive one letter from Annie Sitton opposing the building of a parking garage at 15 Radcliffe Street and calling for park and ride options and investment in wayfinding for parking and in bike ped infrastructure. We had one letter from the Friends of the Low Country Lowline Board and one from the Historic Charleston Foundation, both in support of the Lowline Phase 1 project. And we did receive a petition with 200 signatures, over 200 signatures opposed to the parking garage at Radcliffe and St. Philip Streets. All comments were sent to council in full, and that is all the comments we received.
Okay, moving on, there are no petitions or communications tonight, so we're going to move down to consent. There are no consent agenda items tonight, so we're going to go to committee reports. First, I'd like to call on Councilmember Shealy for his report on public safety.
Thank you, Mayor Cogswell. The Public Safety Committee met on March 18th at 4 p.m. A lot of what we discussed was already discussed in our last city council meeting through the Committee on Ways and Means and City Council. Most of those items. We did hear a report from Chief Dan Curria on the City of Charleston Fire Department update. Very, very good report. Great things going on with our fire department. We did have one ordinance that was deferred that may come up later on watercraft and floating structures. But the one thing we needed to bring out to council today was we had approved an establishment of the Chief Citizens Liaison Group to replace the Citizens Police Advisory Council. And I would like to move for adoption of that vote and of this report, please.
Second. We have Councilman Bowden.
Could we possibly get a little bit more information on the Chief Citizen Liaison Group and how it's different and why, I guess, the determination was made that CPAC wasn't working?
Chief?
Is Chief Walker in? Yeah.
Councilman, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This group
the suggestion to move forward with the citizen liaison group is an efficiency process with the police department. We're looking for something that actually is moving in the same direction with the police department, with some of the strategies, community engagement, the outreach with the Hispanic group. We just hired a new youth coordinator, and I need a group that's going to be a lot more engaging with that process. And this is my platform to actually move forward with it.
And one other comment that was brought up during the public safety meeting, if I may, Councilman Shealy, was that with CPAC, as it was previously called, every police chief since its inception has kind of put their own stamp on it and tweaked and modified it based on what their initiatives are. And so from my perspective, at least, that's what I see the chief doing here. This is how he would like to use this citizens group to help him, particularly through outreach to the community. And on that, from that perspective, I certainly support him. Parker.
Thank you. Thank you for sticking around, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item F, how many schools, and I think I ask this every year, so if I'm getting you on the spot, how many schools in the city now have an SRO full-time?
All the high schools and middle schools, and then we have a 25-man unit, a special response security team that handles not just the elementary schools, but all the private schools in this jurisdiction of Charleston.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just want to commend you and your team again, as always. I mean, I think that we hear it from the State House, I hear it from the governor. But what I see y'all doing year after year is supporting this program and getting SROs in our schools. So just, I mean, thank you. I think this is fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? We have a motion that's been made and probably seconded for the adapting the report and the action on item J. No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it.
Can I just, nay as to J?
Nay is to J? Okay, nay is to J. Okay. We now are on to Committee on Community Development. Call on Councilmember Mitchell for his report.
Community Development met on March 20th at 3 p.m. And under new business, we had an update on 993 and 995 Morrison Drive. And what we did, we voted to approve the proceeding with the negotiation with the city and the county pertaining to that proposal. Then we also, number 2, we had a Charleston Redevelopment Corporation. They had the presentation there. Did a presentation. Then we also had a presentation regarding proposed changes to establish a definition for pools, providing clarity and regarding setbacks and location, and that would be coming back forward to with further information pertaining to it. So I'd like the approval for my report, please.
Motion.
If there's any question.
Motion made, probably seconded. Before we vote, just one quick update regarding the offer on 993, 995. Our legal counsel has provided a draft LOI. We have a few tweaks to it to add in the parking, and that should be going out hopefully this week in the next day or two. So just letting you all know, and it reflects all of the terms and conditions discussed both at council and at community development.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, was a lot of discussion and what the county might want to see in that proposal. So the city, we are looking at all this proposal, see what they want and what we're going to do and what we're going to propose. So all this have to come together when they get together and have all this ironed out. Thank you.
So we have a motion made, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We are now moving on to Councilwoman Parker, Committee on Recreation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two quick things. We didn't need a motion or a vote, but I have made the request to review and update the recreation ordinance, and I'm hoping that we can change it to having a 12-member group. I'd like to have one citizen from each of your districts. We're going to work on that. That will be coming at a later date, but please let me know if you have any thoughts, questions, concerns. We will also be moving our meeting to a hybrid meeting in person here and online, starting this month, third Thursday at 2 p.m. before community development. I move that we adopt the report.
Properly seconded. And again, just, I did want to provide some additional clarity, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilwoman Parker, but again, the idea is to make some modifications to the rec commission where it would be 13 members. It would be recommended by council members, correct? That one addition?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for the Recreation
Yeah,
Commission.
I just wanted to
apologize. Yeah,
clarify
thank
that
you,
point.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Gregory?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd just like to get a few things for the record. And the first one is, I think, what's that, little 5, A5, and that's the discussion regarding the status of the Long Borough negotiations. The neighborhood associations, particularly Wagner Terrace, is far from being restless. And they're ready to sit down with Long Borough and sort of have some discussion about where we're going to end up with the Long Borough dock. It's been literally over 10 or 12 years trying to work on this. And we now have residents literally sneaking, okay, on a so-called private site. I think it's time for the city to start considering other measures to make sure that that waterfront piece is enjoyed by all the neighbors in that neighborhood. And we've been waiting for many, many years to try to get this done. I think it's really time for us as a city to take a stand, legally or otherwise, to make this area accessible to all the residents. I mean, we, meaning residents, have gone through discrimination, literally, pushing them away.
If I may, we have had some conversations with Longborough about this very specific thing. I think it's a great idea for us to get together with legal and representatives of Wagner Terrace and Longborough, and I'm glad to help arrange that in very short order. I think you make a very good point.
I mean, it is something that is really, really long overdue, Mayor.
Agreed.
I mean,
Without question.
people have been really demoralized trying to
costs
use
keep
that
going up.
area. And the costs keep going up. The second thing is, for me, is it's not the status of landscaping along Cleveland Avenue. It's correcting safety issues along Cleveland. When there's a 20-foot fence leaning about 8, 9 feet from the ground that has been that way literally for years and nothing is being done, I would hate for something to happen to one of the residents to prove that it's a safety area. The second thing along Cleveland, there's a double fence. Within that double fence, there's a lot of foliage. It's an ideal place for criminality. And again, we're lucky that nothing has happened yet. I'm not saying that the Citadel hasn't done anything. They have, but it's not a one and done. And I do think that perhaps our Parks Department need to get with their Parks Department, and we need to pull something together, because right now it's a blighting influence in our neighborhood, not just along Cleveland, but all the fencing around it. The whole area needs upkeep. I'm prepared to go to one of my constituents who just happens to be the president of the Citadel and start talking to him about what's going on. I'm a little tired of being ignored. Our neighborhoods are tired of being ignored. This has been going on literally for years. And finally, when we talk about the aesthetics, we're not just talking along Cleveland. We're talking along Grove, we're talking along Rutledge Avenue, as well as Cleveland. I think it's very important that our neighbors do what they're supposed to do. And I'm not saying they haven't done anything, but they just haven't done enough, and it's not one and done. I'm ready to move further with this, Mayor, because it's extremely frustrating to be the kind of city that we are supposed to be, and to have a blighting influence right in the middle of Hampton Park.
You make a great point. I look forward to joining you at that meeting, and I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So we have a motion that's made, properly seconded, Councilman Seekings, and then I'll go to Councilman Mitchell.
I have a quick question that perhaps Councilmember Gregory will remember. Did we not enter into an agreement with the developer at the time of turnover of the docks back to Longborough, a three-way agreement that included the city that gave public access? So it doesn't seem to me.
This has been litigated, and
Right.
it is, I think we are at a pretty close place for resolution. I'm happy to bring you in on some of the most recent comments. You know all the details, but it has been a long debated subject matter.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the costs of just keep going up.
Right.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just want to mention, since we are on recreation, I didn't get a chance to get with Councilman Parker, but I'm still looking at, and I always mention in here, about the east side. I know we have it on the list to do something with Martin Park, which is a park that's obsolete. And it was obsolete for years, and since we are building so many housing around in that particular area, and I said, we did a lot of parks in other areas like James Island, Daniels Island, and the East Side Park. That park is still the same way since I was coming up. I said, now we are building a lot of houses in that area. We'll have little young people there. We have senior citizens there. They can't even get out their home to come to a building to even play bingo or whatever they want to do just to get out of the house. So we need to start looking at that seriously. And more importantly, most of you all wasn't here. I think it was only but 4 of us here when we did the Cooper River Bridge TIF. And I pushed to get that TIF done because of the devastation of that area because of the bridge. And that's how that TIF came in place, if you may, to make the east side whole again. I don't have a problem that we are taking the Cooper River TIF money because it's really closer to the different areas that we are working on, like the low line and to purchase the building from the county, and giving the money to 275 Hughie Street, if you may. But I'm saying, don't forget about what it's supposed to be for. And that's my problem. And I'm getting beat up over in that area because of that, because they're looking at it and say, look, see, they're doing it to us again. You're not giving us nothing again. So this is what I'm saying. We got to start doing it so the people in that area on the east side can see that, hey, what we say we want to do. And the same thing you said in your speech, Mr. Mayor, what the city said we're going to do, let's get there and do it.
Agreed.
And let's just start. We have to start from this point and let's start doing it so they can see what's happening in that particular area and use that money. What's designed for. I know it's not going to be too much left, but we can still try to get something started and start get it going.
You make a great point. Your voice has been heard. Your advocacy is very much justified. We are working on a plan. Look forward to engaging you and the neighborhood on the specifics of that. But there's no question the intent is to do something to that park, significant, not minor, because it is overdue, to your point. So you have my commitment on that, and look forward to working with you and other members of council on the details.
And then we can get along with the James Lewis complex in the front of it to make it beautiful.
Looking at all together.
Yeah, beautify the area. There's something else I want to say, but it's kind of skipped my mind, but because you know how to get sometime, you know, but you know, but it's just, you know, but the low line, I had a presentation at the Ellenborough Cannonball yesterday pertaining to the low line. This is my 4th or 5th presentation I've heard from them. And even what they're doing with the low line, they're going to be putting some money into the low line. So it's going to be really a beautiful place whenever we get it started. It's going to take a lot of money, but it's going to be a beautiful place for a trail. So far, the trail is coming from Columbus Street all the way down to Line Street. So it's going to be a pretty beautiful trail. I think everyone in the city of Charleston will be amazed at how it's going to be, and they're going to really enjoy with that trail coming through the city And even with the Post and Courier is going to kind of put their little 2 cents in, and it's going to be beautiful. So,
Agreed.
so all this happening in District, what, 4?
Yeah, look at him shouting out. Okay, we have a motion made, properly seconded. All those in favor of adopting this committee report signify by saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. We are now on to Public Works. Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All actionable items, as you see printed on the report, passed unanimously, and I move the adoption of the report.
Motion made, properly seconded. Any further discussion on the Public Works report? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it.
One more thing, Mr. Mayor, I forgot, I got it now. In the recreation, all of you have received this information from the concerned citizen of the peninsula/Low Country. I made a motion years ago that it was put in place that the city, that we as a city, and we voted unanimously that the money was to be placed in the recreation permanently every year to support the Philip Simmons Basketball League. I know it's under your administration, so you might have to come back again. But that's what we were doing. We were having this basketball tournament every summer to get the kids off of the streets, to have them something doing constructively. And also, along with Mr. Jones was doing, is a summer camp that he was doing every year at Martin Park. So these things are bringing kids, as soon as schools close, he have that camp going on along with the city camp. And the kids are there, and he have about sometimes 45 kids there in that camp and nurturing them, having people coming in. You have some people from the Citadel Square Baptist Church coming in to help. A lot of people are coming in and helping with the young people there. So I think we need to look at this very seriously, because summer months is coming, and if you don't have any things for these young people to do, it's going to be a hot summer. So we need to look at this very seriously, Mr. Mayor, and again, I'll probably get with you. We can see how we can kind of iron things out that way and get things going, and make sure we have this camp started again once school closed, and also get the Philip Simmons basketball team started again, and bringing these kids getting back into the recreation part of it. And all these young people the city was using a lot of these young people to see how many kids are being in the recreation program. So this is also helping us along the way too. Thank you.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Mitchell, I will put this on next week's recreation agenda.
Great. So again, we're now on to, we've moved on to traffic and transportation. Councilman Seekings, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Traffic and Transportation Committee met what seems like a long time ago, because it was March 25th. If you've got a minute, or about 90 of them, I suggest you go back to YouTube and look at it, because we did have a very interesting meeting. A few things I want to report out on. First, we got an update on the low line. You've gotten plenty of that tonight. I would just like to point up a couple of things. This is a project that has evolved. It's come a long way. Tonight's been a really good night for it to get it going. I want to commend the Friends of Lowline for being here, and also have you all, when you report back to your board, that we at this council have now firmly gotten behind the low line, committed lots of resources, and we look forward to working with you in partnership to make this project go. And I think our committee was very enthusiastic about bringing that forward. We did take up the rideshare pilot program on the King Street and now Calhoun Street corridors. As you recall, this was a pilot program that's been in place for about a year and 3 months. It has had some adjustments along the way. It's been a true pilot program. It was brought to us finally to go permanent. We voted in favor of it unanimously, recognizing that it will be organic, but the rideshare program has worked with the pickup and drop off spots. It is a much safer place. And I think the police chief sitting in the back will just wave his hand in agreement with that we really believe that this program has worked. Am I right about that, Chief? Awesome. Thank you. All right. We had a couple of applications for public convenience and necessity. Those were one that was adopted. Then a couple of reports that we got, 3 actually, that are of some import, I think, and interest to those sitting around this table. We got an update from Charleston County on the Transportation Sales Tax and Transportation Committee project updates. It is really long. There are projects all over the city that you all ought to look at. The thing to know is that the county has funded approved and is ready to move forward on a number of projects, many of which they would consider small in scope. When I say small, not really that small, between, let's say, 500,000 and $3 or $4 million. They have put some of them out to bid 2, 3, and 4 times, and they literally cannot get bidders, qualified contractors to move forward on a lot of these projects, which are safety projects. And I could point up a lot of them, and they're all throughout our districts. The one that comes to mind, because it's right around the corner from my house and in my district, is we a long time approved the installation of raised crosswalks through the College of Charleston campus on St. Philip and Cumming Street. That project was taken up by the county, approved, funded. They've had it bid now 3 times, and they can't build safety crosswalks on a College of Charleston campus. So there are some things in the works at the county level to reduce some of the bonding requirements of contractors who work on smaller projects. Maybe have better insurance and less bonding capacity. That may jumpstart it. But anything you all can do out in your districts to shake the trees and get people interested in building projects in the city of Charleston that are funded will be greatly appreciated. We got an update on River Road improvements from the Johns Island Elementary School. We actually had the school district here. Councilmember McBride added some color afterwards. I believe, and I think I'm right about this, because it was a couple of weeks ago, we have a commitment from the school district that they will not open the school until the road improvements are completed. So that was, I think, of great importance, and I think I'm right about that. So we'll keep an eye on it. And then the last thing is we got from the SCDOT, not the county, the SCDOT, an update on the road safety audit projects, 4 of them in the city of Charleston. We had 3 members of the team here, including Brent Dillon, the Director of Traffic Engineering for the state of South Carolina. There are 4 road safety audit projects that they presented us, all based on data, which is grim. It's data that drives them because the roads that they're going to go work on are unsafe, not safe. The 4 projects are Folly Road, the Septima Clark, intersection improvements, Highway 61, and Savannah Highway. I know of interest to a lot of us around this table because it's been very topical is Folly Road. One of the safety improvements they want to move forward with is building medians along the route. They have heard, like we have, that those medians are not necessarily popular with the people who live along that corridor, particularly the businesses. So they're going to go and rethink it, make sure it's still a safe project, but that it also conforms to some of the concerns of those who live along that corridor.
And ways to potentially beautify it and make it more of an amenity.
At the on the dime of the SCDOT and not the city. They did show us some very beautiful pictures of medians with plantings and the like. Looked great, but of course the question comes, how long does that look great and who maintains it? More to come on Folly Road and all 4 of those projects, but we've got some challenges. The good news is the SCDOT is paying attention. So for all that, the one thing that the 2 things that do need approval of this council is the adoption of the pilot program to full program on King Street and the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity for Old Village Transportation LLC. That's my report. I'd ask for adoption and happy to answer any questions that you might have. And we can circulate, they're posted, but we can circulate the 2 reports we got from the county and from the state on both the projects and the road safety audit.
All right, so let's get a motion on the floor, then we can have some discussion. Move for approval. We got a second. Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing these to committee. The SCDOT, Folly Road, obviously near and dear. We were really troubled when they kind of hit us with that. So I really appreciate you engaging SCDOT in that and making sure that we keep engaging with them to ensure that either continued public meetings happen or we come up with other solutions. Pivoting off of that, the county projects, again, I'm glad you brought that up. We have, James Island has felt this pain as well. We have multiple projects that are designed, funded, ready to go. I will say their staff at the last James Island Intergovernmental, they're bundling some of the projects, which are making them more attractive, as I know that you know. But I commend them on the, just having, at least we have designed funded projects. We just need bidders. And we need to get this work done. Like Rethink Folly, I think will make a big impact into some of this, what we're seeing in these data studies from SCDOT. So again, thank you, and please keep it up. I apologize I couldn't attend this meeting. If SCDOT comes again,
Well, great.
clearing my schedule.
So just real brief in response, couple things. On the SCDOT side, all four of those projects are really important. They're road safety problems. The one that had the most attention in our committee was clearly Folly Road. They have heard very loudly from the city of Charleston and the people who live here about the concerns with the medians. We all want that to be safer, but also to be accessible. So I think there's a long way to go in conversation with the SCDOT before there's a final plan put in place with Folly, and clearly the city will have a lot to say about that.
Wonderful, thank you.
And then on the county side, just you point at bundling, I didn't mention bundling. Even bundling of some of the smaller projects hasn't worked. So they're, to their credit, I mean, they came and they're thinking about it, and they're going to get creative to get people out there to actually put boots on the ground, get some orders turning, and get these projects done, because they are really important projects.
Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick follow-up. We did get bids on some of our James Allen projects. through the-
Excellent. Well, please.
That was my latest update.
Please share your secrets with everybody else, because we need some help.
Okay, we have a motion made on the two actionable items. Move for approval. That is probably second. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor of approval of those two items signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. We are now on to Ways and Means. Call on Councilman Gregg. Motion made, probably seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. We are now up to second reading. There are 10 items up for second reading.
We can take one aside, please.
Take one aside, and then do we want to vote on the others?
Move 2 through 10.
So we have a motion to approve items 2 through 10. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Now we will move on to, well, can we get a
third
third reading on those? Motion made on items 2 through 10 for third reading. All those in favor signify by
Aye.
saying aye. Opposed, ayes have it. We are now on to item 1. We have moved for approval, properly seconded, open for discussion. Councilman Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a little disappointed that, there are 4 of us that live on the peninsula, but we can only get 3 votes on this. That's really disappointing. I'm a strong believer in property rights, strong believer, but I don't think this is a property rights issue. I think the garage, at least to me, is counterintuitive. Counterintuitive because, one, we're trying to get away from a car-centric city. And 2, we have as one of our #1 priorities developing affordable housing. This site is already zoned to have that potential, but we're now moving to change the zoning, totally illuminating what it's worth, and we're clearly building something that the neighborhood does not want. And I think justified in why we shouldn't do a garage. I also think that a part of this is power. The power brokers of the city have spoken that a garage should go there. And for me, that's not oversimplifying it either. Secondly, I heard from some of my colleagues that they have problems finding parking when they come on the peninsula. I have never had a problem finding parking on the peninsula. Never. So, to me, building a garage because someone can't find parking, I don't think it's a good way to go, a good way to judge the need for an entire city. And finally, Mayor, I think that we should really consider the 200 signatures of folks in the neighborhood that will be affected that are saying no to the garage. I don't think that we should just wave it off as something that's insignificant. As for trying to determine how we can get additional parking spaces for when churches or other activities at the churches are occurring, I think that that is something that we can figure out as a city fairly easily. My good friend of mine shared a sign with me at the last meeting that shows that in some cases we're already doing that, making allowances on our city streets when churches are in worship service. And finally, Mayor, I'm all for supporting our churches and their needs, but I think that we also have to be fair to the citizens of that community. Some of the churches may not have enough parking, but they have parking. They have parking lots that are owned by the church, some of the churches. Perhaps there is a way that we can expand those. I don't know. But again, I think, Mayor, okay, this is about power and nothing more than that. And it's power, okay, that I think at this point we're allowing to dictate something that clearly the neighborhood does not want. And again, I have never had a problem parking on the peninsula, even coming to council meeting at 4:30. I can find a spot to park. So if that's an assessment, at least to me, of need, because I think that is some of the consideration because folks can't find a parking space, then let's consider the fact that I can find parking space and factor that into our decisions. This is making me very uncomfortable getting into us and we, because that's what this is at this point. And I, as a councilman, have been extremely supportive of many of the projects in all of your districts, for the most part. I see a head shaking, whatever, maybe one, okay? But for the most part, the Peninsula Council members have been extremely supportive of much, if not all, of the various things for consideration that came before council. I think we're making a mistake here. We're setting a precedent. The hell with what the neighbors want. This is what the power brokers want. And that's what we're going to follow. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Bowden.
Let's call a spade here. I don't know what that power broker stuff means. I have a 3-year-old. I have a 3-year-old. I can tell you I am not even the most powerful person in my house. So that's absurd, respectfully. This is not about what residents of downtown want versus what whoever else wants. Nobody's pitting each other against one another. My constituents in this situation just so happen to have different needs than your constituents. And I got elected to represent my constituents. Okay. Now I've listened to the arguments that everybody's made here. The problem is that this is included in the comp plan in the exact intensity that, look, we're not Nobody here is building a parking garage. Let's be very clear about that. We are rezoning it to GB and then they can do whatever they want with it within those parameters. Everybody agree with that? I'm not building a parking garage and I don't appreciate the insinuation that I'm trying to foist anything on anybody. Okay? I have heard out somebody who has made a completely legitimate request of the city. He says he wants to build a parking garage. I hear all the time that my constituents don't come downtown because they don't have anywhere to park. Okay, I get it. Everybody gets it. You disagree, and that's fine. But this name calling and these insinuations are absurd. And it simply comes down to people off the peninsula sometimes have different needs, and we can't always all vote together, and that's perfectly fine.
Councilman Mitchell.
I heard my colleagues talking about needs, different needs. Where was the city started? Where's the nucleus started? I've been here a while. I was in the city, in the peninsula, and I'm still here. I know a lot of changes have taken place, but I've been here a long, long time in this peninsula and in West Ashley and on Johns Island. And that's why I can tell you, but each one of those different areas, because I lived those areas. So the peninsula got a lot of cars. So the peninsula have traffic. It takes me right now and Mike to get out of my yard on King Street where I live. It takes me 7 minutes to get out because nobody's going to stop to let me out of the yard. That's just to show you how I've changed, because people are not gracious like it was at one time. But ever since I've been here, I always look at the community. All the classes I went to, and you can pull it you can pull it up on the city website, was talking about community first. Developments are fine. Smart growth. 10 of the class, all the classes for smart growth. But your community, you make sure you always have a strong, vibrant community, because you'll know what can happen in the long run. Downtown economy comes. You're going to have nobody coming nowhere. It happened during the time before. We already experienced that. So the community have to always take over, so the community have to be strong. Community is one that made Charleston the way it is. Community. So I always been a community-minded person, always worked in the community. Even in my previous job, work in the community. So when it comes to community, that's first to me, making sure the community, whatever's going to happen, if they can come together in harmony and peace and come in some type working together. But if they can't, there's the community. We're talking about the parking garage. You're talking about Kings. How many of you all live down here in this peninsula to be dealing with this traffic in peninsula all the time? You live West Ashley. West Ashley have a lot of traffic, but you don't live here. Churches is fine. I go to church every Sunday because I'm the director of the choir in my church. So I'm there every Sunday on Glebe Street, right next to Grace Episcopal Church. There's no parking for us. We have to park on the street. I park on George Street because the city give us linear time. They don't give us tickets on Glebe Street. Glebe Street is a short street, so and we have Grace Episcopal Church on the corner. So there's two churches there side by side. So when you're talking about parking, sure, there's a big problem with parking, but putting a garage right in a community, and the traffic, it's going to cause traffic. Don't let nobody fool you. It's going to cause traffic. I'm out there. Councilman Seekins is out there at night too, out there in the community. We see it. But half of you all are not out there. So you're talking and saying, people are talking and saying these things, but they are not there seeing what's going on. And that's my problem. But this is a district I represent. I represent where this parking garage is going. This is my district. And I spoke to Mr. Bromley. I spoke to him very well. We had a nice conversation. And I told him up front I cannot support it. I don't bite tongue and I don't play games. I do not play games, period. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell you what I'm not going to do, unless something change. And that's just the way I am. And you all see me on this council sometime. I look at you. Even Councilman Pell know how we used to go one time, and I used to look at him sometime and shake my head. He know how I was. And if you ask me a question, I will answer it. You might not like it, But I will answer your question. So don't ask me a question if you don't want me to answer it. You leave me alone with that. 'Cause I've been here too long to deal with that. Been around too long. But community is what I'm all about. And when they talked to mention the garage to me, I said, garage? Because one time we had a garage, it was thinking about putting a garage on the corner of Morris and St. Philip. You all probably didn't know about that one. That didn't go through either. The council saw it differently. The city council saw it differently. But they're parking there, travel parking. But you put in 300 or 400, whatever, how many units, garage space you plan on putting there. You know the traffic that's gonna be coming through there. Do you all know how Cumming Street is in the evening? You see how backup Cumming Street is? You see how St. Philip Street is? You see how King Street is? Go and take a look at it in the evening time and see how it takes you to get through, get around. And that's all I want to say. I said, you got to look at here, and sometimes you can't use this only. You got to use this and this when you make a decision and look at it carefully, not for your own self, but for the masses. And that's what you have to make a decision on sometime. And that's the way I do it. I look at it and see exactly. I went there. How many of you all have went and saw the site? How many of you all went there and just look around and see what's going on? Those are the things you have to do. I do my groundwork in my community. I'm to tell you with me. I'm all out there. Come and ride with me sometime at 1 o'clock and 1:30 in the morning time. You know, and young Paul there, he can ask his father about me. His father been here right with me. We've been best of friends. He'll tell you. So they know we are making sure that our community is safe and vibrant. That's all I'm saying to you all. You got to think very carefully when you make a decision. This is an upzoning in that particular area where it is. I commend Mr. Brumley for moving the house for the gentleman. Moved the house, a big house, he moved it for them. But he got that space there where the house was moved from. So there's a lot of different issues there. And I'm not knocking Mr. Brumley, because I remember him, I was working with him back in 1997, 98, when he was building the house on Daniels Island. He was always into housing. So I'm saying to you, you need to look at this very carefully. That's all I have to say. But you make your own decision. I don't tell nobody what decision to make. You make your own decision.
Councilman Craig.
Thank you. We're all familiar with the issue at this point. I mean, I just want to point out we're rezoning 0.04 acres in a larger 1.708 acre parcel. This is 2.3% of the total parcel area that we're talking about rezoning. And if you do want it as affordable housing, it's still going to have to be rezoned. So it's not going to be developed as affordable housing in its current zoning. So even if we do want it as affordable housing, we need to rezone it. And in my opinion, we need to go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to vote in favor. Thank you.
Councilman Brady.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to address some points. I didn't speak at the last one, but I want us to hearken back to when we found out that the Four Seasons was going to be coming to Charleston on Meeting Street and taking the place of the old Days Inn. And I remember a downtown council member giving a speech about how it's already got a hotel use there. And so if it looks like a hotel and feels like a hotel, then we shouldn't feel bad giving the approval for a hotel on the site that already had a hotel. So when you take this to its logical conclusion, and Mr. Morgan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a parking lot existing on the site currently. So if it looks like a parking lot and feels like a parking lot and is used as a parking lot, then the same logic should in theory apply that it would be used for parking purposes on that site, because the intensity may change, but the use is remaining the same. And I would also add that in the original incarnation of the Sumar Street proposal on the triangle, 6 of us voted to put a parking garage there in West Ashley. So to act as if we were not willing to put a parking garage in a neighborhood in our area, I would just, I understand we've kind of ephemeral memories and everything, but like, let's think back to that when that happened, that 6 of us around this table were willing to do that. So I would say that, again, if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And, if it's parking, it's parking. And let's go forward with it. Thank you.
Councilman Seekins.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'd like to turn back the clock an hour and a half. We started this meeting with the State of the City address. And Mayor, you came out of the blocks hot and you said the one thing that we've been doing and we're gonna do is we're gonna listen to our communities. All right? Listen to our communities. And we're committed to the betterment of Charleston. I think that's all true. And, you know, our residents deserve the most they can get from us. So I've been thinking about this and sort of lead with the way I led last time. We're now sitting debating this for a second time in 2 weeks after having had public comment and having had public hearings. And the score is still 0 for anybody not associated with this project to come and speak in favor of parking in this area. That should tell us something. I mean, everyone is so concerned about that corridor of King Street needing parking and parking garages. If they were so desperate for it, they'd be here telling us that, or they'd be calling you and telling you that. I mean, I live downtown. I walk around it plenty. Only one person has come up and said they want additional parking there, and the person has parking needs. I get it, one. But in this chambers, 0. So a couple things. One, the comp plan. A lot has been made of the comp plan, and Mr. Morgan is probably the world's expert on the comp plan. And I think when the comp plan came to this table in its final form, we voted in favor of it. Well, I went back and read the comp plan very closely in the last couple of weeks. And when it comes to this corridor and this particular parcel, what does it talk about? It doesn't talk about parking. It talks about housing. Housing. Now, this lot and the lots around it, when you take that big square block, it's not just one lot, there's a number of them, and Councilmember Gregg has done his math. What we're debating is a very small parcel, and I'm going to get to that with my very last comment and why it's so important. But there's all sorts of needs, and I find it not unironic that Mr. Freeman is sitting here from Bloomberg tonight. They have come and talked to us a ton about what? Need for housing all over the city at every single level, every single level. Here is an opportunity for us to take a deep breath and think about how we integrate our true needs today with the recommendations we've gotten from our experts with a lot that is currently surrounded by a larger lot that is undeveloped. Does that mean that cars shouldn't be on it? I don't think Mr. Freeman is going to tell you that's what it means. But I think if you asked him or anybody else, and if we're all sort of looking inward here right now, I think we might all agree that some housing, if we can work it out, would be a pretty darn good thing here, as well as other places around the city. The comp plan itself, I mean, if you look at this parcel that we're talking about is small, right on the edge of urban core and sort of neighborhood edge, right? I mean, it's right on the edge there. What are we in such a rush to do? We've been talking about this for 15 years. Has anybody around this table, with all due respect, has anybody around this table seen anything about what ultimately this block might look like? We're about ready to give up the one thing that we've got, which is some hooks on the zoning before we know what's going there. I'm not sure that's really wise. If that happens, it happens, but I'm not sure it's wise. This is a moment in time we can never take back. And I'll point up to you, not all of you were here, but in 2012, Mr. Mayor, we as a council, and I believe it was unanimous, if Mr. Keene was here, he could tell me, we downzoned the entire Canterbury, Elliott Borough, except for 7 parcels. We downzoned it. We took it back because we were listening to the people who lived here. This is very clearly an upzoning for us that we own. I can assure you, well, I can't assure you of anything, but I think it very unlikely that in 25 or 50 years from now, if a parking garage and only a parking garage is built on this site, that people are going to look back and go, good on you for building a parking. Doubtful. I don't think that's going to happen. I humbly would suggest that we take a deep breath here. We really think about what we're doing. This little small lot is very important for one reason. Do y'all know what that is? Why is? Because it's got a curb cut. And that will allow that parking garage without having to get anything else to go in and out because there's another curb cut on Radcliffe Street. I don't want to hold anybody up, and I'm 100% in favor of doing what you can do with your property and your zoning. You can't do what you want to do right now with this because it needs an upzoning. I will remind everybody, the ghost of Sumar Street has been brought up tonight. The owner of the Sumar Street property wanted to build what was zoned and entitled. And we bought it out from under him because we didn't like what was going there. We listened to the neighborhoods. Let's listen to these people and let's give them a chance to put a voice in there. So work with the development team and let's see what we can do. The College of Charleston is a big part of this, by the way. The two parcels to the south are student housing that Mr. Brumley owns. Tomorrow night at the Planning Commission, it's going to come to us in a month. They're taking up the YMCA for height and density for student housing. This all needs to work and fit together. So I don't see what's the rush in voting this. If we vote this, it's going to be a parking. I mean, Mr. Brumley's been honest about that. And I want to close with two things. The parking study that tonight, one of the criticisms of that parking study is it's 6 years old, 5 years old. That's the best study we've ever paid for and never used. It's a great study. You ought to go read it. It's not a parking study. It's a transportation study. And one of the things that was said is, well, we're 6 years forward and a lot has changed. That's true. A lot has changed. One is the population of the peninsula has decreased, not increased. The population of the city has increased, but not the peninsula. Two, there was some reference made tonight that 2,000 or so hotel rooms have been built since that study was done. There are less hotel rooms today on the peninsula of Charleston than there were in 2019. Now there's more coming, but in actual tonight, if you were to rent every single hotel room in the city, you would get less than you got in 2019 by just a couple and more coming. So not that much dramatic has changed. What I would humbly ask this council to do in the spirit of the mayor's speech just an hour and a half ago and listening to our constituents, our neighbors, our citizens, is give this some time. Let's understand what this is going to look like. Let's defer this. Let's recognize that Mr. Brumley has property rights, but so do we, and we own the property rights of those citizens. And this is an upzoning. We're giving away what they own. And if we're giving it away, let's get something in return for it. At a very minimum, a full understanding of what's going there and whether it meets the needs that we've heard from around this table a whole ton, particularly from Bloomberg, and that is housing. Whatever housing that might be, we're at a dearth of housing at every level, not just attainable, not just affordable, market rate. I mean, we haven't had a whole bunch of starts in the last 2 or 3 years. So, look, to me, this is time to take a deep breath. Let's all understand what we're doing here, what's going to get built here. Let's understand why we're giving up something that our constituents own, and let's do it with a plan in sight. I went this weekend to look at that lot. There were lots of spaces available. And I'll just close with, and I just can't resist. When you take the aerial photograph that was in our packets, and we don't have it in front of us, but go on your iPads and look at this lot. I counted however many spaces are there. I think Mr. Brumley told us there's 150 some. In the picture that was taken, you know how many cars are parked in it? 60. Now you might say, oh, wait a minute, it was taken early in the morning. Or maybe it was taken. I went and looked at the activity around it. King Street's vibrant. All the parking spaces are taken. This weekend, I went on Sunday. There was less than a third taken up. It's a College of Charleston parking lot. It's not a hospitality parking lot. It's a business parking lot. It's a College of Charleston parking lot. There's plenty of room to make some compromises while we think about what this all will look like in the end. So I would humbly and respectfully ask that a compromise tonight to bring us together on this and to think about what it's going to look like to make sure everyone's constituents are happy. And they recognize that we're doing everything we can to make this a livable, workable, movable, transportable city, that we do it thoughtfully and with purpose and with reason. And I think that we're not there yet on this vote. So I'd ask and I'd move for deferral. I hope you all will join me in this, and then let's get it right. And whatever it looks like in the end, then we'll have had a really reasonable conversation about the visioning, not just parking deck versus not a parking deck.
So we have a motion for deferral.
Second.
We have a
believe we
motion and a
already-
second.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I believe we already did have a motion on the floor for approval.
Motion to defer.
Motion to defer takes precedent.
We have a motion made, probably seconded for deferral. Any further discussion on that? If not, we can take a vote. All those in favor of deferral signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Roll call, please.
like a
Mr.
roll
Mayor.
call?
Do a roll call.
Councilmember Gregg. Councilmember Shealy.
Nay.
Councilmember McBride.
Nay.
Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Brady. Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Waring.
Nay.
Councilmember Seeking.
Aye.
Councilmember Tinkler.
Nay.
Councilmember Bowden.
Nay.
Councilmember Appel.
Nay, but I'd like to explain my vote or make a comment, not necessarily now, but at some point. Thank you.
Councilmember Parker.
Aye.
Mayor Cogswell.
Nay. So we're now on to the vote. If there further, for approval that's been made, properly seconded, there's further discussion. Councilman Appel, you'd like to say something?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a few remarks. Nothing we do tonight is going to forestall an opportunity to have further discussions with the developer about what happens today. The discussion that I've heard around the room today, unfortunately, seems to be a complete departure from the way zoning and development work. We are not approving a parking garage today. As Councilmember Gregg pointed out, we are approving a rezoning of a tiny anomaly in an ocean of general business to be consistent with the surrounding properties. If someone were to do the reverse and there were to be a blocked zone GB and someone said, hey, why don't we take one little tiny piece and zone it residential? You know what that would be? Illegal spot zoning. This is reverse spot zoning that we're correcting by bringing this property into GB. There are a ton of different uses that are allowed under GB. Guess which an example of that is? Affordable housing. There is nothing to prevent affordable housing from happening on this property by virtue of our vote. Let's talk a little bit about affordable housing. I would love for there to be affordable housing on this site as opposed to a parking garage. I'm the guy that thinks there should be 100,000 people that live on the peninsula. Okay? There were 75 or 80,000 about a century ago. Part of the reason we've got 3 council members on the peninsula around this table is because of a decline of population on the peninsula over the years, which I think is a tragedy. It's a real source of problem for all the other issues we dealt with, like when the mayor talked about how our sprawl is happening and how it's putting strain on our infrastructure and our infrastructure is not catching up. We need to get people living where the employment centers are, living where the existing infrastructure is. But do you want to know from my experience as a city council member? I've been doing this for 6 years now. I haven't been doing it as long as some of the other folks around the table, and a land use attorney that practices land use around the state. Do you want to know the type of land use that brings out the most community, neighbor opposition? Affordable housing. You think people don't like parking garages? Let me tell you something about affordable housing. I'm involved in 2 federal lawsuits right now against local governments around this state involving Fair Housing Act claims. We talked about the Fair Housing Act earlier today. Local governments around this state are passing targeted, discriminatory zoning ordinances to stop affordable housing all over the place. We're doing the opposite today. We are paving the way for affordable housing to happen. It's not going to happen organically because, unfortunately, the economics of affordable housing don't work. That's why we have Ms. Shaw Johnson's department. I would be fully supportive of us not ending the discussion today, us continuing the discussion, bringing the developer to the table, connecting him with the resources we have at the city. I know of another local government around the region that perhaps may be coming in to say $30 million or so for a piece of property that they're supposed to be using for affordable housing. Let's bring the county involved. I bet you if a deal could be put together and structured using local government funding in the region, federal and state tax credits, all the things that we use to put these pieces into place, perhaps there is a path forward for housing on this site that it also involves some commercial uses, that also involves some parking, so we can get a better project. But we're not approving a project today. We're providing a framework and an opportunity for a much better project to happen. I don't think we're giving up leverage by passing the zoning today. A parking garage still needs to go through stormwater. It still needs to go through BAR. There may be some zoning variances that have to happen. It's a long road to hoe to get, zoning is just the beginning. It's not the end. We're not approving a parking garage today. There's no plan for a parking garage before us. I would love to see affordable housing. And you know what? This is an opportunity for the NIMBY politics around affordable housing to be reversed. We have heard on the record members of the Radcliffe Borough community stating on the record that they would be in support of affordable housing on their doorstep. Let's see if we can make that happen. Because I think that would be a tremendous outcome if, at the end of the day, we brought more housing into our communities, onto our peninsula to support and make more vibrant the downtown peninsula, because we need a lot more of it. And I think there's the opportunity to do it. There's the need. The city is committed to affordable housing. We have other local governments in the region that are making the right noises on affordable housing. This is an opportunity for them to put some resources on the table to get it done. And so I think we have an opportunity to do that, and I hope that we would. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Pell. Look, this has been a very spirited debate. I certainly respect everybody's perspective and opinions. I do think this has been a very public process through moving the House to comprehensive plan to the Planning Commission to the debate 2 weeks ago to the debate tonight. And again, folks, we don't always have to agree. We have different perspectives, and I respect those opinions. I really do. But as Councilman Appel points out, this is a zoning issue. And again, it's been talked about being a parking deck, and, you know, I'm sure that's what the application will be. But I think we can all agree that this is going to go through another very public and long process. We haven't seen anything related to what a parking deck might look like. There's a very arduous process that the developer is well aware of that they're going to have to go through to get approval on to ultimately build any sort of parking structure or anything here. And I'm sure that the commitment from this council is to make sure that whatever goes there is something that will fit with the historical context of the neighborhood. And you have my assurances that I'm committed to working very aggressively with the developer to make sure that that happens. So, any further commentary related to this item? If not, we have a vote pending. Councilman McBride.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to give some feedback on a lot of the commentary that was sent probably to all of us from a lot of constituents about this issue. And just to show due respect to a lot of the good ideas that I did read, and a lot of comments mostly via email were, you know, pointing out that sometimes it's difficult to find available parking on the peninsula in Charleston. And I definitely agree with that. I've gone from parking garage to parking garage trying to find parking garage that's open certain times of day and week, different events, that kind of stuff. So that's definitely something I think that the city could work on, some kind of networking system between parking garages and parking spaces that people can scan a QR code and kind of get an update on, hey, where parking's available. 100% agree that that's something that the city should pursue to improve the parking situation, because it also reduces traffic, by the way, because you're not driving around trying to find parking. You know, you park and you're good and you get out and do your thing. I also want to point out that even with that and whatever else we can do better at the city to improve parking, that just keeping in mind, just taking Long Savannah as an example, one example, we got 4,500 to 5,000 units starting to be built now along Savannah. And you take 2.5 people per unit is what the city, I think, uses to calculate. We're talking just in the Long Savannah area, 15,000 people over the next several years, as the population grows, some percentage of those people are going to be working downtown, we hope, trying to work downtown, and hopefully visiting downtown, partaking in the restaurants and the culture downtown. And so we think that if parking's bad now, and I've heard different arguments whether it's bad or not, it's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse over the next several years and decades. And of course, Johns Island is growing and other places are growing. My constituents on Johns Island, several of them have told me that it's very difficult to park downtown. They do concerts or different things downtown and they have a hard time. So yes, we should find better ways to get more efficient parking for what we have now. And if this becomes a parking garage, there is more parking that is needed and will be needed as time goes on. And so we have to think forward. We can't just think about what's happening right now today. We got to think about what's going to happen in the next 10, 15 years. And just to give a painful example on Johns Island of not doing that properly, back in 2007, there was money and a project ready to go to widen Maybank to 4 lanes all the way down Maybank on Johns Island. And the city at that time in 2007 timeframe shot it down because they wanted to keep Johns Island rural. And now here we are 23 years later with a single lane off of Maybank to get to James Island, with people backed up in traffic every single day trying to get to work and school and downtown to work, by the way, in a lot of cases. So that was poor forethought and foresight with good intentions. It was good intentions. I get why the people back then in 2007 wanted to keep Maybank from being 4 lanes, but now we're paying the price big time every single day. So that's just an example that we're experiencing on Johns Island of trying to do the right thing in the moment, but not looking far enough ahead to realize the impacts. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Waring is next. Councilman Tinkler.
I just want to point out, because I know it's been mentioned several times, it's a comprehensive study on parking. And it's 133 pages, but I had the opportunity to go through and look at it. And it's 6 years old, but it's also, I think, something that has a lot of really good ideas. And Councilman Seekings talks about how it's one of the better studies that we've commissioned here. And I just hope, especially with what Councilman McBride is saying and all the challenges we're going to be facing in the future, that we roll up our sleeves and really look at those recommendations and try to get as many implemented as possible. But that's it.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our areas of the city complements one another. Obviously, you have downtown, and you have the suburban areas. One of the ladies, and I read it, wrote about park and ride. We actually employ that. Do we need more? Sure. In Councilmember Gregory's district on Fishburne Street, right across from Stonyfield and the Joe, there's a lot of surface parking lots there. People come in, park. Medical University actually has a fleet of buses, pick up the employees and drive them around to the medical district. West Ashley in Councilmember Ross Appel's district is a park and ride lot right off on the corner of Farley Road and Albemarle. Used to be old concrete products. People park there, shuttles take them from that lot across to VA hospital and again, the hospital districts. There's already a parking garage on St. Philip Street in the block between Van der Horst and Cumming Street. It's on the College of Charleston's campus. It's been there for about approximately 20 years. The neighborhood has done nothing but flourish in the last 20 years. It is a wonderful place to live. Crime did not come from the parking garage that exists. As a matter of fact, prior to that garage being built, employees and students had to park and compete for space off-street parking in Radcliffe Borough and in some cases, Halston Village. Probably in the coming months, the Wentworth Street garage, for various reasons we know structurally is unsafe and hopefully has to be rebuilt. The city owns the land. The College of Charleston built the structure that eventually failed. Now, there's discussions on not doing away with that garage. Actually, it's in Councilmember Seeking's district. There's been some discussions on making it larger, okay? Not smaller. And to go higher with that Wentworth Street garage, that's a zoning issue. It'll have to come back in front of this council. So today, we talk in detrimental ways about parking garages and neighborhoods. But our reality on the peninsula has been entirely different. I mean, we have about 20 parking garages on the peninsula that complement attendance to various events on this peninsula. People off of the peninsula, in particular who represent those off the peninsula, have to have a global view. And I'll tell you why. For decades, areas West Ashley, James Island, and Johns Island pay $1 of taxes and fees to the city, but we don't get $1 in tax and fees returned. We supplement the city and have done so for decades. Several months back, the tail end of last year, we voted, it's a huge project, a TIF for the Ports Authority property. It wasn't the 3 council members who represent Ratcliffe Borough that passed that. It was the 7, 8, and 9 votes that's not on this peninsula. Now keep in mind, not one dime of that estimated $400 to $450 million that will be generated from development at that site, not one dime will go James Island, Johns Island, Daniel Island, West Ashley. We did that for the greater good of this city. We had to negotiate, we didn't have to, but in good faith negotiated with the school district for 33,000 square feet of office space. Now, everybody in the city, all taxpayers, are pushing in the same direction to make that work. We had the Dutch dialogues, and again, God bless the departed soul of Dale Morris. But all of the recommendations that came back, the $1.1 billion perimeter wall, all of us have to pay for that. How much of that money, how many recommendations from the Dutch dialogue is going to stop the flooding on Shoreham Drive or Barberry Woods or Ashley Forest, West Ashley, or East Oak Forest or Ardmore? Not one dime of that $1.1 billion is going to cure the drainage projects in those areas. So it hurts to be accused of not being sensitive to citizens in a community. You know, I started not to say all of this, but when you represent people that if it rains 3 inches or 4 inches in a short period of time, they literally pray for water not to come in their house. And you see over $500 million, $500 million, that's $500 million, in drainage projects that's come to this peninsula. We all voted for it, but it wasn't the 3 council members who represent this district only that had those dollars done. Septima Clark Spring Fishburne is $200 million alone. And we deny ourselves West Ashley for that. So the peninsula is not a castle. It doesn't have a drawbridge with a moat and you pull it up and say no more new people. No more new visitors. Not this time or not this day. We complement one another. When somebody on the peninsula needs building supplies, they don't get it on the peninsula. They drive and hit that connector and go to James Island Lowe's, or they come West Ashley, or maybe even go to Mount Pleasant. Grocery stores, sometimes they go, depending on what part of the peninsula you live in, you go to the Publix on James Island, or you go to Harris Teeter in South Windermere. We complement one another. We don't compete with one another. We help one another. So I know sometimes you get emotional. And my colleague, Councilmember Bowden, and my colleague, Councilman Gregory, but at the end of the day, we're gonna walk out here as gentlemen and women, shake hands, and help to make our community better as we move forward. With that, Mr. Mayor, I call for the question.
Okay, one more. We've all spoken.
Yes.
Councilman Gregory?
Yes, I agree with what my colleague said with respect to the investments on the peninsula. But I think it's very, very important for us to note that much of what is done on the peninsula assists everyone who comes to the peninsula. When I'm just trying to make things clear here. When we invest $200 million in the Septima Clark Parkway, that's not just for the peninsula. That is for all of Charleston to benefit from. When we build a bridge, okay, the bridge is for all of Charleston, including west of the Ashton, et cetera, et cetera. So I do agree that there is a lot of money that has been invested in the crown jewel that is the economic, okay, the economic basis of this city. That's part of the reason why initially there was so much investment in the crown jewel. I will be the first to say, okay, that there is an imbalance. And there has been an imbalance, and we need to make it up. But I do want to make it clear that the investment in the peninsula is not just for the peninsula. And finally, Mayor, for me, absurdity is not understanding power. Power is never given. It's always taken. And when we understand that, I think we can react accordingly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have the motion made, probably seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Same numbers, looks like ayes have it. Councilwoman Parker?
Nay.
Yes, okay. I think we've got it recorded. Does anyone want a roll call, or do we think we have? Okay. All right. All right. So that second reading. Motion made for third reading, properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Now we are, I think, wrapping up. There are no bills up for first reading.
Wait, we still need to take 2 through 10 together for.
We already voted.
Oh, thank God.
So with that, the next council meeting will be held on